What's up, everyone? Good afternoon. Again, thank you for joining us. A lot has happened, hasn't it, over the last 2 days? What we expected, in a way, we talked about US going to war with Iran being an almost certainty with the deployment, and that has happened. So we will discuss exactly how that impacts the Indian markets, the stocks that I'm already short on, and the stocks that I'm going to short. And we'll also discuss this, which is the stocks that I'm going to be buying into once we reach a recession, which seems to be very likely to happen over the next weeks at the best. Weeks at best. So we'll start off with just discussing the impact of the war with Iran on the Indian stock market. And I'll show you some stocks that I am shorting. I'm already short on some of them, and I'm going to be adding some shorts. Just a second, I'm sharing that screen with you. So you should be able to see my screen. If you can't, just let me know in the comments. Right, so the first obvious bracket is OMCs, right? So we're talking about your HPCLs of the world. I'm already short on this stock. And I think my target price, don't kill me for it, it's fairly low, but at minimum, I'm looking at a 320, the last peak, which can become a support, but it can go lower. We've seen the stock dip somewhere to 293 about last year. I wouldn't be surprised if we dip lower than that. The final target should be in this range, somewhere around 117, because historically, if you look at how HPCL works, right, if even if there is a re-rating, it keeps coming back to its prior base. And this is the new base that it has set, somewhere around 112, maybe even 140. But at least a 320, 330 is the minimum target for me for HPCL. IOC, even though it gave great returns, the problem with these companies is that they're working on a refining margin of about 8 to 9 rupees. But if oil jumps to, let's say, about 80, though, we know that it's going to jump to by Monday, barring something exceptional, which I don't see happening. Given that Khamenei is dead, this war is going to drag on. So if oil jumps to 100 or even 120 as expectations go be, because if you look at history, oil gives a 76% jump at a major Middle East conflict. It's called the 76 rule in investment banking, right? That oil jumps by 76%. So 76% jump from about, even if we take 60, that gives us about $110 about. So at that point, the refining margins become negative. So your IOC, BPCL, HPCL, everything goes in loss. Now, unless the government raises fuel prices, which they're not going to do, the government is unpopular already as it is. So I find that highly unlikely. Even if it does happen, though, the uncertainty will derate them. So the same applies to IOC as well. I'm also short on this already. I've talked about this in the last live. I told you that the one sector that looks prime for a short was oil marketing companies. And we're going to see a massive gap down on Monday. I would not be surprised at 5, 7, 10% gap downs. HPCL to 10%, I think, is a given. Barring a big change, HPCL this lower circuit here. So here I'm looking at about 113 previous support, but it might fall lower. Right? I really can't give you a bottom on these stocks because that will sound outrageous. But yes, massive downside. Can you see the screen now, Whole Silver? Okay, just a second. Yeah, there we go. Sorry. So if you're looking at IOC ka chart, I'll start off with HPCL. So if you look at the HPCL ka chart, right? If we just check this zone, right? So 05 to 013, right? Or to 13, right? About 8 years, it constantly took support in the 25 to 30 ka range, right? About 30 rupees ka range. It had peaks, double, triple the amount, but it took support there. I expect something similar to start happening here. It'll have massive peaks, but its support should form here, like the final support. It's not going to go below that wala support. That's 112. But my first target would be in the region of 300. I'm already short on this again. So I would say somewhere around 300 is my target for HPCL. In terms of how much of a gap down I'm expecting on Monday, we kind of priced in a little bit on Friday itself. But this war is bigger than even I had thought. The way this is shaped, given that Donald Trump and Netanyahu both have already come out and said that this is a regime change war, and that Khamenei is dead, that brings about a twist that no one expected. So I checked what the president was saying, who was the second in charge, and he's saying that he's going to avenge Khamenei. He's not backing down, even though he is someone known for his prudence. He wants to get rid of sanctions and all that. That was his calling. But I don't see how he does that now, given that the supreme leader was murdered. That's a huge deal. That's like Mahatma Gandhi murdered by US or Israel attack on India. So if that happened to us, let's say if Mahatma Gandhi, the person that he was, for India, well, that's what Khamenei is for Iran, at least for the government. Whether a good person or bad person is, I can't say anything about that. But if a foreign country, which for Iran, Israel is equivalent to what Pakistan is for us. So imagine Pakistan bombing and killing Mahatma Gandhi, or in today's day, our prime minister. That doesn't, there is no way out, right? You have to then fight a war, you have to go all out. And we already know Strait of Hormuz is blocked. So these things nobody priced in, that the escalation would be this massive. That means I still see a 1 to 2% gap down on Monday. We might see short covering. I don't expect that though. I see this falling now. As I called, I think 2 weeks back when the market started falling, I somehow had an intuition there that this time there's no recovery because there's nothing left, right? So I don't see a recovery. If something changes by tomorrow morning, then that's different. But gap down, and I would not buy into the dip no matter what. So at least 1.5%. OMCs, maybe even lower circuits. I don't know. Counter that might work poorly for me because I'm short on Muthoot Finance. Gold finance companies might rise a little bit, but I'm not sure. Prakash Roy, Amine. So the problem is chemicals will also fall. No? Strait of Hormuz, if it's blocked, oil gets blocked, and crude is the raw material for the entire sector. So if you look at alkyl amines or the chemical sector as a whole, I expect them to fall, especially high beta stocks, pretty sharply. Yeah. Anyway, so OMCs are the first bracket. Then we know tire stocks, cement stocks, airline stocks, all of that is going to crash. That's common knowledge. I'm sure you guys are already aware of that. Then the question becomes where to hide, right? What do we buy to hide? Very counterintuitively, it could be IT. Again, I'm not saying take a trade on it. It's counterintuitive, but because it's oversold, I don't know who's going to come in and sell IT now, right? FIIs, if they put in a massive amount of pressure, maybe that works poorly for us. AI hasn't given any poor news. In fact, Anthropic has been blocked by the US government. So that, in a way, works well for IT. So weirdly, IT could be a safe space. Even private banks, possibly. But there is an issue with banking here that I don't know if you guys saw this interview, but Mr. Ajay Bagga, the one who comes on Z Business also a lot, he and he was second order effect. The remittances that come from outside India, right, especially from the Middle East, of course, here, and there's a massive remittances because we have a large population living in the Middle East and a rich population living in the Middle East. So those remittances will also get affected. So that might impact our banks a little bit, and our banks also have stakes there. Now, Adani Ports is a company that I think I'm already short on again, solely for the Iran war. And that's a company that might be one that people are not talking about. So if this does not give an early fall, I would want to short more here. Big drop, right? I'm looking at a big drop. The support should be around 1,050 because they run a massive port there. They will get impacted, and of course, it's a ports company. If the bottleneck of the world, which is the Hormuz Strait, gets blocked, the port stocks will struggle. Nifty 24,700, very much possible, Kamal. 24,700 round seems very, I mean, we're already at 25,100, right? Just a second. Yeah, it's possible. Even if it doesn't, this is not a dip to buy into. That's my key point here. Yeah, if we get a dip, we might even get a pullback. Who knows? So if you're that sharp a trader that you can play those 10, 15, 1 hour ranges, then maybe for an oversold zone. But I would stay away because I do not see this problem going away anywhere. And the bigger issue is not just Google cockroaches private equity. Just Google this much, right? And there are many articles coming out with this where they talk about hidden cockroaches in the private equity sector that are now creeping up slowly. And most of that private equity is getting exposed because of the massive investments in AI. So this is becoming a slightly big deal now. So we don't just have a war, we also have these tiny problems in the background. And you have this war drive oil prices higher, and it's a global recession. Unless US and Israel manage to just take over Iran in a month. But that they won't do because if you try to see the bigger picture of this war, right? I'm going to show you why this war would most likely either be prolonged or at least Iran, just Iran. This is a war against China and China's growth. China's economy is heavily dependent on the oil from Iran. Just Google this, you'll find multiple articles on this. Now they're becoming prominent. No? Somehow you couldn't see them a week back. But if Iran gets choked, China gets choked. And no matter what, US will want that to happen. And the US and Israel or the Western world is already secured enough oil by the Venezuela president's capture. No? And US already is an oil surplus country. We do. The biggest impact of the Hormuz trade being closed is on Asian countries. The only Western aligned countries that suffer would be your Japans and South Koreas of the world. So yeah, this war will be long, and my advice as just another guy, not a registered advisor, but to anyone that I know, to the people that have been with me since the beginning, Chirag, I remember you guys. My advice would be, and do your own research, but my advice would be, don't buy the dip. This is not the time to be buying the dip. In some stocks that are massively oversold, 80-90% discount, you want to buy for the long term, great. But no, we've seen the black swan event happen. I think this is the black swan event. Barring some massive sudden change, which I don't see happening, because Iran won't agree to it. Israel is already committed to regime change. Donald Trump is already committed to slowly accumulate, right? Then what do we accumulate? That becomes the big question, and that's what I'm going to share with you now. Just a second. On the screen, just a second. There we go. So this is the list of stocks that I've been adding to for a while, right? And you see top of the list is metals. I think metals still has a rally left. There'll be a fall. Even right now, metals could do anything. They could fall massively because they expect a recession, or because there's a choke point happening in trade. Metals might just rise because the price of metals will rise. But then dollar will also decline. That means metal prices, again, in Indian terms, they also rise. So we can't be sure which way this is going to go in the immediate term. But as they fall, if they get to a 30-40% correction, then the first rally should be led by metals. And I'll show you exactly why. We'll go through all these stocks. I'm just going to start with showing you why metals specifically. Give me a second. So if I look at, right, you have the screen back again. So if I look at, let's say, an old metal stock, right? Maybe something like Vedanta. Was it there in the 2008-9? Yeah. So if you look at this, right after the crisis, when stocks started bouncing back, Vedanta gave you a massive return. True for all metal stocks, right? You applied universally. 6x return in about a year, 15 months. I expect something similar to happen here, because यहाँ भी वही था metal super cycle, यहाँ भी वही हो रहा है metal super cycle. Correction, yes. So from January 08, let's say, a peak of 215 to 77. So about what, one third, maybe let's say 40% or 60% correction. So that might happen here for all we know. It might go down to 300 for all we know. But my point is, when it starts bouncing back, it'll bounce back the fastest. So if I'm picking up a position in futures, right, I'd want to pick something like metals with a very strict stop loss. There'll be a double bottom. You'll always get time to buy in. It never happens like a one-day flip, right? There's always time. At the bottom of bear markets, there's plenty of time to buy. So I wouldn't rush. I'll take my time, let things stabilize, even if I miss 5%. That's how I am playing it. Maybe you play it differently. Let me know. We can discuss that. But metals would be the first sector that I'd focus on. This would apply universally, right? To almost all metals. Kisi ko koi personal problem ho, then that's different, of course. Then the second stock we have is Anant Raj, and there's a reason here, right? This is a play on data centers, because I don't see data centers going anywhere yet. But Anant Raj is not just about data centers. My exposure to data centers is going to come from multiple brackets. The first of which is land. So we have Anant Raj and Hemisphere Properties. These are two companies that I'm very positive on, because they have huge land banks, and data centers need water and electricity and chips and everything. But most importantly, they need massive amounts of land. And this is what these companies can provide. So in their land value will get added. Oh, again, I hadn't shared it. So the land value will get added to the company's valuation. So you have Hemisphere Properties and you have Anant Raj. These are the two that I would definitely be interested in buying. I already showed metals. I'll show you the chart again, because I'm still getting used to being on the screen there. But if you see, right, Vedanta, in the 08 crash, it went to one third its price. And then when it rebounded, it went 6x in 1 year. So if you can play both sides, that's 1 to 3, 3 to 6, 18. So 1 becomes 18. Of course, nobody can time it. But even if you miss 10, 20%, I missed 20% here or there, that is what my plan is. That I would want to get into metals as soon as possible. Then we already talked about land banks. Then we have your ABBs of the world, right? Most of the high beta, most of your high beta capex stocks, capital goods stocks, should do well right after we find a bottom. ABB, Siemens, whatever is working with data centers, because this is also a data center play. That story isn't going anywhere. So we can have ABB coming in. Where would I enter? Um, Very tough to call this, but there's a fall here. There's still a fall to happen here. I'd probably enter around 2,500 to 3,000 ka range. Even so, still a 50% fall from here. So maybe 3,000 would be where I would just be like, yeah, now I can start buying. Um, yeah, P ratio doesn't matter too much here, but yeah, it almost makes me sad looking at how much of a fall we can see. Same applies to all of these, right? Like this would be the range, the previous resistance would be the range where I would go. This should become the support. So this is 2,200 about here. Again, a good 40% discount from here. That's where I would enter those capital goods stocks. Um, then we have data, sticking with data centers, AI, we have NetWeb Tech. I'll just show you all these stocks. Look at them once, and then tell me if there's any specific stocks you want me to talk about. Hey Ashima, mine is set at 720p. Not sure. Let me know, right, if there is still a problem with the audio or video. I'll see if I can do something about it. Then this is the set of stocks that I'm going at, right? Looks good now. Perfect. So these are all the stocks that I'm going at. If you want, you can take a screenshot because I'll also have to show you other things, right? So I've already talked about metals. Anantaraj I've talked about as a data center land bank play. Now commercial space companies like Office, WeWork, Ramit, long term they might do decently, but this is a very low margin business. Now because work from home and startup culture and everything is picking up a lot in India, these companies might find a good footing, but the entry barrier is so low. Like think about it now, Ramit. Like why why would this company survive competition if a much larger player suddenly decides to come in? Technically, sure, there's large percentage holdings from DIIs, FIs, and all that. I understand that. Those are all good signs. But it doesn't have a moat. So if it's a long term investment, I don't want to go into a company that does not have a moat. It's too easy to displace them. That's my logic behind not going into them. Still might turn out to be great companies, though. Now, coming back to this, as you can see, I've very clearly pointed out that within data centers, power generation companies would definitely win out. So I'm talking about everything, right? I'm talking about NTPC's power grid, everything related to power. The only caveat is the data centers should remain a story. Right now, they're not going anywhere. And the biggest bottleneck for them in the world today is power generation. Chips could become a bottleneck. They are not right now. Power is the bottleneck. So I'd want to stick with them. And the same applies to your water management companies, right? I'm talking about your EMS of the world, water bugs of the world, ion exchanges, and they are trading at a good price. So, Chirag, I can't be sure, of course, but it, let me just show you the chart, right? And I work with a very simple principle, right? That there's a law of averages. I believe in the law of averages. It always applies, or the law of large numbers. If you're a math guy, you know what I'm talking about. There's no exception to it. So if you look at how the stock price of these companies moves, they never go parabolic, right? The way they've gone here, they just don't. And there's a reason behind it, because demand for what they make can only grow so much. So till here, I could have understood the company's growth till 2,200. I'm hoping you can. There we go. So if you look at the chart of this company, they grow a certain way, right? They'll give you a 10, 12% average return. If you buy it at the right time, you'll get a great return. But between what, '05 to '09, there was a 0% return, right? Sure, there was a crash. Then let's look at '09 to 13. It only doubled about in 5 years. That's what, 12% return about, right? Then you look at 13 to, again, let's say 18 every 5 years, right? That's just what I'm picking. In fact, I could even stretch this to 20, but there was a recession. Let's leave that. 13 to 18, 550 to what? From 280. Again, doubled. So it's an average 12% return. That's how these companies function, and that's for a reason. Nothing new has happened after that. Right? We have the same monetary system in 13 to 18 that we do now. In fact, we have higher rates now. It's up to rates zero thing. So why is it that suddenly these companies in this bracket, 20 to 25, suddenly it's gone 6x? How is that justified? What has changed? Nothing has really changed. It's not like they're exporting machines made by them. The only story here is data centers. We're saying that we'll need these guys for everything in data center security, this, that, blah, blah. I agree, but how much? Not to go parabolic, because data centers don't have power. तो पहले तो power create हुआ ना. Like there was a recent research. Um, I'll try to put this in a post. I'm forgetting the name of the YouTuber who made it, but a brilliant YouTuber, right? And he made a video on how power generation, or how AI is misleading us in a way. The AI industry is misleading us in a way. And he talked about how we would need just one major project that Elon Musk is coming up would need, I think, 10 nuclear reactors to manage it, all the power it needs. And US in the last 30 years has made one nuclear reactor. And even if they built that much power, they don't have the transmission capacity to send that power. सो पावर का इश्यू तुमने सॉल्व नहीं किया है. जब तक वो नहीं होता तब तक इनकी डिमांड सीमेंस की कहाँ से आ सकती है? कुछ डेटा सेंटर्स फीजिबल ही नहीं है ना. आप लैंड बना लोगे, आप उस पर बिल्डिंग्स खड़ी कर लोगे, बट you won't be able to use the servers, and that's where their equipment comes in, right? They're going to be managing the electrical equipment inside. That's what Siemens is known for. It's not known for trucks and JCBs, right? So that is my point behind not buying these companies, or why I think they should fall. Can't be sure, but yeah, that's the logic. Now I'll just a second. I'll bring back the other thing, and I have to learn how to show multiple. I don't think currently it allows me to do that. Okay. Feel free to ask your questions, right? We'll just take detours. So power generation companies, again, in the fall, I would be accumulating them. I think one that covers a lot would be Irida, but I would keep an eye on nuclear power as well, especially possibly, right, Tata Power. They haven't made a big enough announcement, but agar koi bhi Indian company will go into nuclear power as a private player, I think Tata Power has the biggest first mover possible advantage there. So power generation, I'll keep a very, very close watch on. Data centers survive, power generation companies will be the first to jump up. Now, Paradeep Phosphates is just one that everyone should have in their portfolio. It's just a company that is undervalued, does a brilliant job. So this has nothing to do with the trends right now. It's just one great company that everyone should own. The same would apply to your Ether Industries as well. Yeah, it's right after this. Ether Industries as well, a great company that I think everyone should have in their portfolio. This is a stock that will be representing India in the future, like Divi's Lab does today, right? SRF does today. This is that kind of a stock. For my medical play, it's Rainbow Children's Hospital because, sorry, premiumization in the baby kid segment, kid care segment is growing a lot. There is one more here that I haven't written. It just strikes me with this. There's Max India. That's a company. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but I'll just show you what Max India is. Right, there we go. So this is Siemens. Show you Max India. This is owned by the Max Group, right? Nothing. It's a good, stable promoter group. They work in hospice care, right? They come up with societies where only the elderly and retired live, and they also have these home care segments where they'll send a nurse to be around you and everything. And the society I live in, this has become very popular. I can see people using this hospice care a lot, even if you don't send your parents to hospice. Of course, in India, that is a big cultural taboo. I would never, until it's in my power, I'd never send my mom there. Pardon me. But we could still use a nurse, right? We could still use their services in a way. We could still buy a flat for her in one of those societies just in case something happens to me. So this brand, Max India, this is a good 10, 20-year play. Especially our generation, by the time we become 50, we would want a house like that. My wife, we're not ready to live with our kids when we're old. We want to live separately so that we get our space, they get their space. And I think most of the people in our age group would agree with that. So this has a bright future, and it's the only player in this group. Nobody's creating societies just for the elderly. Nobody's focusing on it as much as they are. So this is another stock that I really, really like. Now, another medtech play is Supriya Life Sciences. And I don't know if you know this, but the creator of Anthropic, right? He came in an interview and he said that one field outside of AI that he would invest in is biotech. The reason being AI is revolutionizing that space. Now you can find your stock in it. I haven't done my complete research yet because this interview only came out, I think, day before. So I haven't gotten the time to go into it. I will slowly, I think I'll come up with a video on it as well. But biotech is a space they really like. And Supriya Life Sciences, I think within this space is a brilliant company to be in. Within the pharma space as a whole, a brilliant company. I remember buying into it around 200-ish something. Yeah. I sold it. I didn't keep it for long enough. I think somewhere in this region, once it went a little parabolic, because I don't like stocks at all time high. I feel like unless it's justified by a sudden change, it doesn't really make sense to me. That's a weakness of mine. But yeah, this is a stock that I would hold for the long term. I get it to slightly lower, maybe in the 400 range. I would blindly buy for a 10-year perspective. Rainbow is already in the buying range, but there's going to be margin compression. There's going to be PE compression. Agar recession aata hai, which it seems all but decided now, barring something crazy happening, and I don't even see what could happen. But there'll be PE compression. So I don't see them trading at 45, 46. Seems to be a little too much. But yeah, long term ke liye another brilliant stock, Rainbow Children's Hospital. Vatek Vabag I've already spoken of. That applies to everything, right? Not just Vatek Vabag. Let me just check if there's a comment. Sai Life Sciences, yes, a very good company. Very good company. Could go into it. There's another one, right? There's Accum's Drugs. I've talked about this in my videos, but I'm invested in it. I don't think I'm going to be selling this anytime soon. This is a game changer kind of company. Like their business is evolving. They've gone into one particular drug that they're also exporting, and they've gotten clearances from many nations. So these stories haven't come out yet, but this is a great company to be in. Accum's Drugs. Do your own research, right? Like I don't want you guys to just blindly invest, but I like it. I would buy into it. Keynes is another one. If India's AI sector boom is to go anywhere, semiconductors or data centers, any of those, then Keynes will do well. We'll wait for a good PE. We'll wait for a good entry point. I think someone asked me this question. I said that I would be going in somewhere in the 3,000 ka range. It hasn't touched that, but yeah, somewhere in this range at the previous resistance, 300,000, I'll start buying and I'll be ready to accumulate all the way down to 1,000. Whatever price it goes to, I'll keep accumulating. Not a massive investment though. This is a small cap company in today's world. So my maximum investment in this would go to 1 to 2% of my portfolio, not more than that, no matter what. What would take 5% of my portfolio might be stocks like this, right? Very counterintuitive, I think. Hold on. Yeah. Very counterintuitive. It's a large cap company, but their business model is just rock solid. Like they're even going into alcohol now, though of course alcohol companies are seeing weakness because the next generation isn't that into alcohol. But this is rock solid. You've got your brands that you're never going to go away. Soda is always going to be around no matter what happens. So yeah, if I'm going for a 5%, then that's what I would go into. I'd go into metals for 5%. High dividend stocks, where one of my favorites, I don't know if I've shared this with you guys, but Axelia Solutions. Unless AI changes so they work mainly with airlines, their backend software. If AI changes that completely, then they'll suffer. But even if I can hold it at the same price, even if it gives me 1,200, having fallen from 2,000, so that's a 40% collapse. Even if it can give me this price about, I still get a 7% return annually. So one of the highest dividend paying stocks, if not the highest dividend paying IT stock in the country. In my research, I haven't found one that pays higher dividend than this. So I'd go into Axelia Solutions as well if I'm looking at IT. And I think that's it. There are a couple others, but the situation currently demands that I don't go into them. Even Paradeep Phosphates, for example, I wouldn't buy right now. Simple logic being phosphates, right? Like it's going to be dependent on crude oil somewhere in the chain. It's going to depend on it, and that's going to be a problem. Maybe that's why this is what someone knew. That's why it's been falling, I guess. Yeah, so those are the stocks I'd be going into. What am I shorting? I've already told you. OMC is already short on. But even PSU banks already short on. I've shared that with you already. Your Bandhan Bank, I went short on this week. SBI, I already shorted. I told you that I'll be shorting it. I've shorted it 1,100 about somewhere is where I went short on SBI. So if you look at State Bank of India, gave brilliant results, but my logic behind shorting it is pretty simple. Like this always happens, right? There's re-rating before there's a collapse. The collapse always starts at a peak for companies like these. For SBIs, for metals, it always starts at the peak. And I think the peak has been made. I'm already in some profit here. I shorted fairly higher. Yeah, I think I shorted at right at the peak. Luckily there, 5-10 rupees ka difference. But yeah, so that is well. Cinema SGS. Give me 1 second, Ashima. Too recently listed. I haven't followed it long enough. Yeah, I mean, stable looks like a good company, but would I buy here? I'm not sure. That could be a weakness of mine because I don't like buying stocks at peak. This is something that Mr. Buffett also says, right? I want a margin of safety. So if I'm buying into a stock, especially a small cap stock, this is a very small cap stock by today's standards. I would want to maybe at 665, I'd consider it at least a 10-20% का buffer होना चाहिए, especially is terms में. But long term, तो what would go wrong with this company? Their business is stable. They're working with giants. Yeah. So long term, I don't see why this company won't do well. Scient. Very stock specific. You guys don't have any macro questions? Everything is going wrong with the macro. Oof. So if you've bought in somewhere here, then I would hold. But the chart tells you everything, right? I'm looking at a larger time frame ka chart, right? This is always the case. Up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. It's in the down cycle. We don't know where it's going to stop. It could stop here. I don't see it stopping before that. 740 to dikta hai jate hai, right? Like it's just logical. It's broken. I think the last support it had, big support it had was what, 1150 about. That's where it tried to take some support. But once it broke that, you could argue 950, but I don't think so. It's breached 950 as well. So 740 to jana chahiye yaar. Because long-term support lines also work. I'm not a big technicals guy, but I do this for my investment as well. These long-term supports, right? They almost always work because there's such a big faction working on this. 750 to jayega. But if you're buying in here, hold it for 5 years, I would think you'd get double your money in 5 years. That's what my assessment would be. That it will reach back to its peak. It's not like the stock is going to go bust, right? But unless AI, I don't think that will happen though. I don't think these companies are going bust. They'll pivot. Right? These are the companies who will pivot, right? Otherwise, who will? अगर ये नहीं pivot करेंगे तो कौन करेगा? So yeah, safe long term, but immediate there might be a problem. Silver. So silver has a very bad habit. It's a very nice question. Silver का दिखाता हूँ मैं problem क्या है silver के साथ. Silver has the problem of volatility. Do you see what I mean, Ashima? You can see exactly what I mean, right? Right from this chart. One peak, big recession, two peak, big recession. There's the third peak. It might go higher from here. I'm not saying it won't. If you want a technical analysis of this, the best that I can do, I see a 9x bottom to top. I see a 5x bottom to top, so I can't even draw parallel there. So yeah, it could be the top or it could go to 140. I can't tell you that. But the reason silver rose, if I talk about it macroeconomically and not technically, the reason silver rose was because we were citing its industrial usage. But that industrial usage also is linked to your AI revolution. And that in itself is coming under question now. The problem is not with AI, right? Not with the tool itself. It's not the technology that's the problem. The problem is the greed. People have overvalued it. People have gone in and said we're going to build data centers, and on that note, they're getting more and more loans. But those data centers don't have the electricity to power it. For example, Elon Musk is using coal-based power to power his data centers right now. How long is that sustainable? One, it's expensive. Second, he's breaching environmental protocols, which thankfully Mr. Trump is supporting. But that's not going to last for too long. There are companies who just won't work with them. Right? Europe as a whole has this agreement that if your company is not green, then we won't work with you. That is why Nalco is not able to export to Europe, right? Properly, or at least it has to pay a premium. So that can't last for too long. That's where silver's industrial usage comes into question. So is it a point where I would buy? No. Is it a point where I'll short? No, because I can't predict it. This is too volatile a space to predict a metal like this. And the lot sizes are too big. If I was someone for whom a 30 lakh rupees ka lot for margin, right? You need like a 10, 12 lakh ka margin per lot. And I need to be able to average up or down. So I need to have two lot worth of margin to even think about going into the first lot. That's a founding principle of trading, right? If I'm going into short or buy anything, especially for shorting, I should be okay with shorting one more time. I should have enough margin to do that. If that's not the case, then I'm not going into the stock. Same with silver. So all of IT is going to follow the same idea here, Govardhan. So even let's see KPIT, let's look at the chart. Look at price analysis, right? Oof, oof, oof. I don't know. Maybe 500, 510 could be a support. 700 pay, there is a resistance and support 711. 10% down, there might be a bounce back, but oof, no, man. So KPIT Tech, biggest problem and biggest plus point. So I like the company as a whole. There's no doubt about it. I mentioned it in the video. I like the company. The problem though is buying it right now for an immediate gain, let's say futures, that's not what I would do. It's a very niche player, so it'll always find business. Right? They're already working in a field where specialization is a big deal, right? Auto as a sector is where you need people who do one job brilliantly, like a Mercedes or a Stellantis or a BMWs, whoever they are. They'd want to go into one of these fields. They do have competition, of course. They have strong competition with the likes of Tata Elxsi and all that for the features that could come. So let's say autonomous driving. If KPIT wants to go into that, then they'll face friction from Tata Elxsi and all that. But it's still a good company. In the short term, though, it's basically the definition of a falling knife. So I would average down, buy into it, average down, buy into it, average down. At a 27 cup P, it's not insanely expensive for a tech company at least. I'd keep an eye out for disruption, but at 500, I'd be happy to buy. At 500, I'd go yes. 700 to 750 ka range is also a good entry point. First tranche. 500 is the big tranche. It might still fall up to 350. That's it. I don't think it'll reach 350. But if it does, then that's where my last tranche goes in, and that's enough. उससे ज़्यादा की ज़रूरत नहीं पड़नी चाहिए. यहाँ से आधा हो जाएगा, उससे ज़्यादा नहीं होगा. It's a specialized company. Power and transmission, Darrell, Voltamp, Shilchar, apart. I can't look at all of this in one go. Okay, so Skipper I've looked at in the past. Apar, I don't know, Chirag, why you're going into it. Let me just start with Apar Industries then. So what I'm trying to look for in conductors is if it can manage the high voltage part, right? Good company, I guess. Yeah, like the business at least is good. I don't like the chart though, Chirag. Like at all-time highs, is market mein. If I was in your shoes, I can tell you that very honestly. But I don't know as much as you do about this company. I'm guessing since you're already invested, I would be selling here. I wouldn't be buying here. I won't short, but if I have delivery, then I would book out. I don't know where it's gonna go. If I'm in a profit, sometimes it's just better to realize profit. It could go to 20,000, who knows? But immediate term, it looks like they're going for a big fall. So it's a good time to book some profits. Um, right. So if I'm talking about power sector stocks for me, right, I'll just open all the power stocks in India, right? So we just get everything in one go. So NTPC, duh, right? It gives you good dividend. Adani Power, yes, unless something goes wrong with Mr. Modi, we'll have to keep an eye out on that. The reason I didn't look at Power Grid is because transmission with private players are becoming pretty big. None of the other Adani companies. Tata Power, caveat being nuclear power ka jo privatization, and that still plays out. Then yes, Tata Power as well. JSW is doing some very good things, but I think the whole group is overvalued, Abhi, especially your JSW Steels and all that. Something is up, overvalued. Torrent Power is the unspoken compounder. If someone is looking for a safe company to go into, this is the company to go into. It's an unspoken compounder. It just does its job. So at these prices, probably not. But to average on and hold for the long term, yeah, Torrent Power is a good company that somehow nobody talks about. Nava, yes, I remember seeing this company in my dad's portfolio when it was, I think it's 60, 70. Or not even that, less than that. Yeah, here, 20, 30 bucks. This is where I saw. And my dad told me, can you analyze this company? And I said, the company's trading at less than book value. That does not make any sense. And he said, yeah, I'm going to hold it. And I held it in his portfolio after his passing. I held it in his portfolio for a pretty long time, but sold it, sadly. Should have held it for longer. Um, what else in power companies? I don't think it's giving me all the right names. I would look at this one. The caveat for all PSUs is that BJP government stays. If BJP falls, all PSUs are a short, immediate short. The moment we hear about something big like that happening, all PSUs are a short. But as long as their government is there, this is one of the best companies to average down. And I expect this dividend yield to go to 5-6% easily over the next 3 to 5 years. A PSU company that's in finance and will make some good profits, they will pay out dividends. If not now, in 2 years, 3 years, and then the stock price might be 1,000 for all we know. Among PSUs, one of my favorites. You know what I would stay away from? It's going to sound counterintuitive, given that there's wars everywhere. This is the one I'm going to stay the furthest away from. Massively overvalued. Massively overvalued. Like India is already moving away from or make in India for weapons now. I don't know if you've noticed the last 2 or 3 months, ever since the US trade deal started getting into focus, we're now getting our jets and everything from outside. We're sourcing from Israel, from France, from the USA, where we basically benched HAL completely. It's going to happen to BEL as well. So this is now, if there's a stock that I want to short after Monday, once OMCs fall, this is going to be BEL. Prime candidate for a short. I think I was too confident about it. But any other questions? Just to put this all in a gist, we will see a fall. I don't think there's going to be an immediate rebound. The news will tell us before a rebound if something big comes in. But yeah, I won't buy the dip. Very simply put, I will not be buying the dip this time around at all. No fresh shorts in stocks that are 10%, 15% down either. That's about it. IT could be the savior. If there's any other questions, I'm here. Wonderful then. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me. I wish you guys a wonderful next week. Hope you guys make a lot of money in the volatile week we expect. I'll see you on Sunday. Thank you.